Started. All right, welcome to the collective call, our collective community call that we have every Tuesday night, actually without exception since we started it. So thanks so much for joining us. This week, we'll be talking about assuming positive intent, what that looks like in your life, not just with ourselves, but with other people, also movement of your spine, and some recipes. This was all about the sauces and the scoopable things this week, as well as where you're at in your program. So whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this in the bod groups or whether you're here with us live, thanks for tuning in, and you're always welcome. It's never too soon or too late to engage with us. You're always welcome here. So tonight, just a note before we really get started, and this is not meant to be like, oh, we haven't done this in the past, but we're going to do it tonight. We always do this, and it's the whole focus of this group. And it's not like silver lining or like keep it positive, but it's more like, where's the opportunity? So no matter what difficulties we discuss, whenever we bring things up, it is even if it's something difficult that's going on in one another's lives, I want us to make sure, and this is an exercise that we all can get better at, myself included. We want to make sure, Amity and I have just talked about this before the call, we want to make sure that we are always bringing it to the group or to our mind or voicing it or writing it with the purposes of seeing the opportunity, of seeing what we can learn, of seeing it as a lesson rather than a complaint. Because what happens with the complaint is, and I'll bring this to you, it's just like the traffic stop, or it's just like the traffic light that we talked about last week, which is when we start to speak negatively about something that's going on, our minds and bodies and hearts will make us right. And if we are associating something negative with an experience, that will sit in our body differently. It will physically sit in our body differently, and it will pull us towards the negative, like we are magnetizing ourselves to seeing that thing in a negative light. And it will actually make seeing the opportunity and the lessons in the other things that surround that event, person, statement, it'll make it more difficult. So whenever we're bringing things here, it is with the purpose, this is a safe place, always. I know that Amity and I have discussed this at length. If we could have no other purpose in life, is to create a safe and loving environment for people to feel supported, to remove perceived barriers to health and wellness. That is our whole purpose in creating this community in our own unique ways. And Amity just wrote, where focus goes, energy flows. And that's the whole purpose. So thank you, Amity. You put it more succinctly than I can, than I ever do. So we're going to keep it not positive necessarily, but we're going to keep it in this opportunity-based way. So if we're bringing something up, it's with the purpose of seeing the good, seeing where we want our energy to flow and becoming more aware of that. So with that said, does anyone, Kelly, I will forward you. I'm going to copy it and send it to you right now. I'll send it to your email. So that way you have it. So does anyone have anything they want to bring up? Whether it's about, I'm so sorry. Whether it's about, I don't understand how things are connected. I really don't. I think I just lost you guys. Okay. Assuming positive intent, movements of your spine. Does anybody does anyone feel pulled to share?
I moved my spine. I watched Amity's video and I just started doing it because I was like, well, doggone, that feels good. I'm going to do it again. I played it 3 times till it stuck. So thank you, Amity.
I get to do that every day in bar class. So it was a review. It was a good review.
It was a review for you. I thought about that when I was filming it. I'm like, well, this is not anything new to Ellen. She does it every day.
But it's good. And you know what? I look forward to that. And by doing that every day, it's a good way to start the day. Like, it might not be like some rigorous exercise, but it makes me feel good. And sometimes I wake up and, you know, my mattress is really old and my back doesn't feel real great. And we do that and I feel wonderful. It gets me zipping for the day.
Good, good.
Love that.
Tell you I was challenged because I didn't do it. I was challenged because I didn't do it, and you know, I'm thank goodness we're, you know, I was able to take this month, this first of the month, to go through my think about my goals and for this month and stuff, and so I was able to renew my desire to walk, and I've actually talked to my husband about um, we gave up our Y membership for a little while because the pools weren't. My husband has cerebral palsy, and so he has to be in a warmer pool. And there was some, I don't know, the board at the Y was making some poor decisions, and so about how to save money, let's put it that way, and thinking that it would be appropriate to have those warmer pools, the smaller pools, at a cooler temperature than what is good for my husband and even the little people who do swim lessons there. So anyhow, so we gave that up for December and in January, and so in lieu of the weather being what the weather is around here, and me being my mother who doesn't like the cold now, I've asked to reinstate that so I can go and use the track or use the treadmill.
Awesome. That's awesome. Congrats. And reestablishing that goal, I think, is wonderful. And it's always a good time to like reassess. I think always, I mean, perpetually, it's always a good time to take stock and reassess and like, is this what I want? Is that where I want to go? Am I taking steps towards that? So that's awesome, Kelly. I did include a little bit of like, we were talking about it just before I hit record. Just for anyone that kind of scrolled to the bottom, was like, oh, there's a picture of Sharon and an old lady. That is my gram. If you watch nothing else or read nothing else, watch the Amity's spine video and then the very bottom video, because it's just a lesson. I think that when we're really paying attention and we're learning how to look at the opportunity and the lessons from things, the thing that I shared, it was a bit more of a personal anecdote. My grandma's my best friend, and she passed in 2017. And the eve of the funeral, we went around the table just to share something really positive that she gave to each individual person, 3 generations sitting at the table. And the common theme about all of it was that she never got mad. She just always would say, what can we learn from this? And she didn't mean it like a, what did we learn, right? It wasn't like this like sassy adult figure. It was like, okay, you fell out of the tree. You didn't break anything, right? Something tangible. Or like, okay, my china just broke, right? Like you're 5 and you just broke my china. What do you think we can learn from this, Sharon? And it wasn't in this, she was an educator also. She was the very first female curriculum writer for the city of Philadelphia. She got her doctorate with 3 boys, all under 6 years old. Like, she was really a cool human being, but everything contained a lesson, everything. And it wasn't about assessing judgment. It was just like, okay, how can we be better? How can we improve ourselves? So the lesson there is removing judgment of things, right? Like, we don't have to say this was good or bad, or I like or dislike. It's okay, maybe I don't like how this feels. So what do I have control over in this situation? Right. And then the picture included was her on her 95th birthday. It was the very last time that I was with her. It was 3 weeks before she passed. She got tired after eating a massive meal of Chinese food out to dinner, and she fell asleep with me, her whole body weight leaning against me at the dinner table with the whole family just talking around her. And it was just a really happy moment. But in her little Burberry vest that night, she probably said, what can we learn? Right? Like, I'm so full. I've ate myself silly. I think I learned that I ate too much and I could use a nap. Like, even at 95, she was sharp. So if you pay attention to nothing else, this is Gram Week for me. I realized every year, this is, again, personal, but I realized every year for the first 3 years that like the anniversary of her death really was hard for me to function. And I chose to focus on something else. I get to celebrate her instead of mourn the loss of her physical presence on earth. And her birthday was just 3 weeks before that. I got to spend it with her. So now I choose to celebrate her birthday. And instead of staying at home and crying and feeling like I can't do anything, I choose to honor her throughout the day. She had a cheesecake. She had a milkshake the day she died, of course, because she was the coolest human ever. So I have a milkshake, a cheesesteak, because she loved cheesesteaks. I go see an indie film or a museum, and like I do a grand day, like what we would do for her birthday. And I choose to celebrate her. So this is Grand Week. Her birthday's on Friday. Have a milkshake. But again, that's a choice. It's a switch. It's a reframing of something that didn't feel good, and choosing to look at the opportunity there. What else? Thanks for letting me indulge a little bit.
I think that's so cool. That's the kind of grandma I want to be. Like, I had really close relationship with my grandmas, and my kids don't really have that with my mom, and Duncan's mom passed away. So I think about, like, it's my fault because I moved away. So my kids aren't physically close to my mom, but you know, they text her and that, but like, I want to be that gram that like my grandkids want to come to. So that's so cool. So cool.
She was the coolest human to ever walk, run, walk, crawl, shuffle on this earth, as far as I'm concerned.
I love
Karen, hearing about the topic and hearing you describe it and everything with your gram and stuff reminded me that of something that my husband and I's premarital counselors did. They actually gave us a little card, and part of what it said, it was a reminder to not automatically assume malintent, and it's so easy for me to, like, negative whatever is just my default is to go to the negative. That's just kind of where my brain goes if I let it wander and stuff. It just goes to the negative. And so to hear reminders, to see reminders, it's like it's a I need constant reminder. I can only speak for myself. I need constant reminders that the person who showed up at my house a half an hour early wasn't being mean. She realized she could come earlier, and I wasn't ready for her, and so but she didn't do it out of malintent. She just did it because.
Yeah.
So but yeah, and then I am constantly learning not to judge, like because I'm trying to do. I've learned a lot about mindfulness in the last probably 4 or 5 years, and one of the things that they talk about, or at least the ones that I go to, they talk about just letting things happen without judgment, like letting if your thoughts start to wander, let them wander, bring them back in with your breath, but don't pass judgment on them.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And so it's hard.
It is hard. Well, and it is. It's not, Kelly, you are unique. There's no one like you. It's also not a Kelly thing. It's a human thing for us to go negative. You can get 1,000 compliments throughout the day. One person makes a comment about your shirt, and that will be the only thing that you remember for the rest of the day, right? Like 1,000 to 1. It is so much easier to to go to the negative. How many times have you, anyone in this call or watching, received like an errant, what you perceive to be a negative look, and we're like, what was that? When like they could have been looking 300 feet past you trying to read a sign doing this. But we caught eyes with them, and we automatically assumed that they were grimacing at us, right? We automatically assume that negative intent. It happens every day for everyone that is out in public or interacts with anyone in the home. It is just so much easier. It is work. It is work to think, okay, however I'm perceiving that is my filter. It probably has nothing to do with them. I have to tell my wife all the time, like, I don't know if they meant it that way. All the time. But Kelly, that's great. Like it is great there's a switch to not assume negative intent to assume positive intent. There is a big jump between the two. right? Has anyone felt that big jump?
I don't know if this is the same thing, but Sadie was driving her car the other day, and I was on the phone with her, and someone laid on their horn at her, and she just like laid on the horn back, and she's like, I'm like, what was that all about? She's like, I don't know, someone honked at me, so I just honked too, so then they wouldn't think that it was me that was causing the problem. They would just think it was someone else. And I'm like, that's a good way to deflect, like you don't take it on yourself, you just like put it out there to someone else. And then when I was on my way home today, someone was laying on their horn at me because I was trying to get in my driveway. And I did the same thing right back because I just thought of her, like she's like, just let it go right off of her back. Like, I'm just gonna honk and put it out there too. And I'm not gonna let it affect me. And I was like, I'm gonna do that too. So like I didn't take on their anger. Like they're probably in a hurry to get somewhere. It's not my fault. I can't turn left. Like I'll get there as soon as I can, but yeah. So I mean, I don't know if that's the same thing that you're saying, but it's what the first thing.
I just will say it to myself out loud in my
Yeah.
car. I guess their horn works. But their horn works. Kind of, joking.
Amity, I think it is. I think one step further would be being like, oh yeah, they were in a rush. I totally get it. Right? Like, because you said it was Sadie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that Sadie's like, I'm just going to participate. Honk. Like we all have horns. Look at me. Look at you. Look at me. Right? Like, I was like, okay, we're all just going to test our horns out today. I think that's like the middle ground between like not assuming negative intent, and then the positive intent is like actually letting them off the hook, actively letting them off the hook, right? Being like, I get it. You got to go somewhere. I'll get out of your way as soon as I can, but I'm not going to rush up on your account, right? Like you live your life, I'll live mine. I'm over here, you're over there, right? Like, so I think that's it. But, and it sometimes does take a switch. The difference is if you had a really, well, I don't know when this was in your day, but if you had a really stressful day, I wonder if your reaction would have been different to be like, right?
Maybe.
Because that's our lens. Has anyone felt their day bleeding into an interaction where it didn't belong?
I had one.
Yeah.
I had one this week. No, I guess it was more like last week. So I started a new job the 1st of November. And when you're new and you hear people whispering in another room, sometimes you think they're talking about you. And I was like, don't, but it seemed pretty. I had just left the room and I heard whispering and I'm like, don't, just don't, and I found out later, I was glad I didn't take the bait or ask around because the girl that was in the office next to me was quitting her job. And that's what they were whispering about. They didn't want me to hear because they didn't want it to affect my being excited about my job. And she worked for a different partner than I did. So I didn't inquire. I just like let it go. The old, like I would say 20 years ago me, the more naive me would have been like, they're whispering about me. I want to know what they're talking about. And been like walking over there going, what's going on, you guys? But I didn't assume it was all about me this time. And it wasn't. So there you have it.
I mean, not only was it not all about you, but they were actually trying to do something benevolent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they were actually trying to be good and to like, so it was kind of about you in an indirect way, but like for your benefit, right? Like they were actually trying to do something benevolent.
Yeah, but I was just like, they're probably talking about something totally unrelated, which they were talking about her.
Right.
But I was like, don't let it, just because they're whispering in another room doesn't mean it's about you.
Right.
Like I was just like, doesn't mean someone's got a knife in your back kind
and
of.
That's the ego and your past.
Yeah. Oh, bad.
Totally. But I mean, we all have it. We all have the whole, like, you got to figure out what that is. Like it's the FOMO, it's the ego, and it's like any past trauma where not knowing some things that were going on around you, you felt like gave you less control in your life, right? Like, and it's all of those things always coming up in like the most mundane things, like random office talk. But it's so funny you brought that example up because yeah, they were actually trying to like like do something, like nice, like not include you in the drama of it. So not only was it not about you, but like, yeah, they were.
And I appreciated not being,
Right.
the whole reason I like working from home and having that balance was because it kept me out of office drama. So I was like, oh, thank you for not including me in the drama.
And then by reinforcing it, you're reinforcing your belief system that you don't need to know it, right? Like, it's not about you, right? And I mean, I have to remind myself, like, it's not about you, Sharon, all the time. Like, if my wife is having a bad day or whatever, like, I have to be like, has nothing to do with you. Right? Like, whatever it is, working to assume positive intent is so much harder than just trying to be Switzerland. I recognize it. It's hard work. Ellen, were you going to say something earlier? No. Amity,
Yes.
I am going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
And you're going to hate it. And you're going to be so mad at me. And that's okay. I can take it. For the purposes of showing everyone that's going to be watching this, and the people that are on this call, that we're all human, will you share your day a little bit today?
Yes, but Ellen was in that class this morning.
So Ellen can tell you. Perfect. Okay. So Amity, a little bit of a precursor. Amity and I jumped on a call, and she was like, I am so mortified. Let me tell you what happened today. Okay.
No, like
Amity.
die is what I said.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm so glad you're making this, Ellen, because let me just tell you
I
what.
know what you're talking about, so I don't know what it was that happened. I don't remember.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Anyways, I'll tell you. So what happened to me today? Oh, sorry. After class, I went curling with my ladies, and so we have played 2 ends already, and so one of the ladies came up to me afterwards. She's like the sweetest, most gentle, soft-spoken woman, and she's like, we have a little problem. She goes, actually, it's kind of a big problem, and I'm really not sure what to do about it. And she kind of looked toward my backside, and I felt around to the backside of my body, and there was a slit in my pants this long, right at the seam.
Leggings.
Yes, in my leggings, at my butt crack, like, and I was like mortified. So I'm like, oh my gosh, when did this happen? Surely it just happened when I did my last throw of my stone, right? Like when I crouched down. Okay, so I already had that on me, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? Like, and she was so sweet. She's like, well, just try not to bend over in front of Rigo, like is the guy who does our ice for us. I'm like, no, we got to have a better plan than that. And so I took off my jacket and I tied it around my waist. And the sweetest thing, so Rigo calls out like, are y'all okay down there? And her name is Beverly. She was like, yep, we're good. We're just, working so hard. We got to shed a layer. And so I had taken my jacket off and tied it around my waist. And so she was so sweet. She took her jacket off and put it down on the bench next to me. And so I was mortified for the rest of the day, and I had lunch with them and everything, mortified. So then I called Sadie, and I'm like, you will not believe what happened to me today. Like, I want to die. This is what happened. And she's like, Mom. And so then, Ellen, as I'm going to put the classes on the portal tonight, I am like, let me just check the class this morning and see if my pants were ripped during class this morning.
I didn't notice them.
They were.
Fancy.
And I could delete. So don't worry, you'll never see that one on the portal. But I'm like, I was so humiliated. And Sharon's like, here's the thing. Humiliated today, you'll be fine tomorrow. It's like,
no, I said mortified today, it'll be hilarious tomorrow. Like,
And don't you love it when your daughter tells you that? I mean, like my daughter Erin would just be so obnoxious and telling me about, oh my God, I can't believe that she would do that, but I did not notice it, Amity, did not see it.
Okay, praise the Lord, because it makes me feel so much better.
So the question
on what Amity's story.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm on your screen, but sometimes like we're talking about perception too, like tonight, and sometimes we have something like this happen, and like mine was I was wearing this long skirt, and I came out of a lavatory in an airplane, and I had toilet paper, so my it was like sticking on my thing, and luckily I had a nice little old lady tell excuse me, you got something in your hands, and it kind of like, I didn't make it very far down the aisle, thank goodness, because it would have been embarrassing. But sometimes it sticks, like that kind of stuff sticks with me like for a long, long time because of the way that I perceive somebody else perceiving it.
100%.
And sometimes I can stay for a long time, and I don't want to even be around that person anymore, or whatever. Or my big thing, especially with my anxiety and my ADHD, is I can perceive that somebody's acting a certain way because of me, and then that makes me want to like isolate, and it's not necessarily a crack in pants or something to do with your clothing. It's just I think it's because of I behaved a certain way.
Well, Kelly, you're right. And so like I'm the newest girl at curling. I'm the youngest girl at curling. Like I'm you know, I I'm already worried about what they think about me because I have the least experience. I feel like I'm holding them up. I feel like I'm, not allowing their team to win when they could, all the things. I'm letting that be on me. And I'm like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. But if I would have come home, I would have just sat in this bed and been worried about it the whole time. Instead, I stayed there and like faced it head on. And I knew they weren't talking about me because I was there. I mean, they might have talked about me after I left. I don't know. But as long as I was there, they were not talking about me. And, I didn't let it ruin my day, although I was mortified, but I didn't let it ruin my day. And I was so thankful and so grateful for her for having the kindness to be so compassionate with me.
Does anyone want to take a stab as to why I put Amity on the spot and asked her to share?
Because it happens to all of us.
It happens to all of us, and we're going to fast track it to be funny, right? Like when we hold on to something, it becomes so much bigger. And also the acts of kindness part, like it is really easy to forget. First of all, can we just like take a minute for nice old ladies? Like small acts of kindness about the toilet paper, about Amity's butt crack showing at the curling center. Like, I mean, come on.
And
but
I
like,
think they're courageous too for saying something.
yes. Well, I think there's like zero, like less fucks.
To Amity, but like in my situation, it was a total stranger.
Yeah.
Like stepping up to say something.
Yes. It's just, it's like a certain like zero, like they're out of shits to give. So they're like, honey, like something like you should know. I would have wanted to know at your age type of thing. Like small acts of kindness, but also like we have the ability to do those small acts of kindness for other people. But I asked Amity to share because like the faster we can, like you can talk about it and feel comfortable about it, like the funnier it becomes, the less like mortifying it needs to be. But like the quicker we're able and willing to laugh at ourselves in situations that don't actually matter in the grand scheme of things, the less weight it feels like we have to carry it. And then we don't have to carry it at all, because now like 9 of you get to carry it with us, and whoever's watching this. Austin, oh, can't hear you, Austin, go ahead. I didn't know if you were talking to us.
No, I was talking to my fiance.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. But now Amity doesn't have to carry it alone. She shared it with me, and then I asked her, and I can't force you to do anything on Zoom, but I asked her to share it with other people, and now we all get to carry it with you. It's a lot less to carry as opposed to just knowing that you showed your butt crack to people today. Also, but Amity did say, to Kelly's credit, Amity did say, like, I'm so glad I didn't go to Starbucks. I never would have gone back to that Starbucks again. And I was like, yes, you would have.
That's true, I would have.
Yeah, you call it my Starbucks when there are like 8,500 of them in the greater Chicago area. Like you absolutely would have gone back there. You wouldn't have found a new my Starbucks. Like you just would have gone back and hoped that they didn't say anything. But now you can go back and be like, just in case you saw my butt crack, right? Like,
I have the best meme. It's a Starbucks meme, and this lady has static cling, and she has like long underpants stuck to the back of her coat in a Starbucks. It's
Oh yeah, I've
funny.
seen this.
And have you guys
I've
seen
seen
that? So everyone has had a wardrobe malfunction in public, or has seen one, or has hopefully helped someone out of a jam and
Yes.
prevented one. So these stories are the bomb. And if only we were brave enough to make memes out of them,
I
it
know.
would be even more fun. We could
Yeah.
really monopolize. Amity, you could be like, it could go viral. You could be rich by now.
Could
A
be.
curling meme. I mean, if we could think of something really funny, but
I'm awful at it.
you just made my night. I love that kind of stuff. It happens to me. So to find out it happens to someone else, I'm like, yes, someone is living my dream. This is great. So
And
We
here,
can talk
Thank-
about it here. Let's not share it on my
thank
Facebook.
you for sharing. Thank you. I will not share your private moments.
Right.
Only you can share them if you choose. But I'm blessed and honored that you shared them with us. So I truly feel like family here.
and to kind of bring it kind of full circle to the like assuming positive intent, like the woman who told Beverly, right?
Yeah,
Amity?
Beverly.
She wasn't trying to embarrass Amity, right? If we are assuming, if it's easier for us to assume negative intent, Beverly was embarrassed. Beverly wanted Amity to cover up for modesty purposes, and everyone else was affronted. That would honestly, like with a negative assumption, that would be easier than to be like, oh my gosh, acts of kindness. She was just telling me for me, and she wasn't embarrassed. She just thought that I would want to know that my butt crack was out, right? Like, but we can go those different directions. So
Because if she wanted to embarrass her, she would have said something out loud in front of everyone. She didn't. She pulled Amity to the side when they were alone and made sure. And it's almost like when you're a boss or a manager and you praise in public and you coach in private. She was kind of doing that kind of same mentality, I would guess. And I just think that's really super cute, and bless her for doing that.
yeah.
When she took her own coat off,
Ugh.
it was like, yeah, I almost cried.
Yeah. Like when you told me that, I was like, oh, like she didn't have to. She was just like, yeah, we're all hot. We're all hot. Look.
I think she is a treasure, and I think you just found yourself a good friend, Amity.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Any final shares tonight? Please let us know what you think. This is the first time we didn't like put together a like salad soup thing. We thought that doing something that you could put on everything to try and like replace the really heavy creams or overly processed dressings or sauces, something that you can kind of make like a staple. And it's just a one step, right? You put those ingredients into a blender, substitute what you don't like or have, put those ingredients into a blender, and you've got a sauce. Just make sure that you shake it before pouring it because it may separate because it's natural things, but you can keep it there. And if it's in you can freeze it. It's I think the recipe said airtight container for 5 days. You can freeze, you can make a ton of it, freeze it, and then you've got an everything sauce all of the time. And it can be and you can modify it however you want. So that way you can have more sweet, more savory, so that it can substitute, because I know that most people, I don't know, but view food as like a vehicle for sauce. So this can be, or for condiments, if you're a condiment person, this can be a really great way to not completely throw off your plate or your portions. And it can be a really great way with the ginger and the garlic and the carrot, right? Like a lot of those are just like freebies on both Portion Fix and 2B. If you're putting in a ton of carrot, and like tahini base can be a really great way to get some vegetables and healthy fats too. So
You had asked earlier, I'm sorry.
You're good.
You had asked earlier about like wins and where we were at in programs. And so I just wanted to share super fast. I finished my first PD book the beginning of this week, which I've been milking Jen Chinchero since the summer. But I finished that and I started Green Lights. And so when you were talking about like last week about lights, and then I started Green Lights this week, and like, I don't know, lights are a thing for me right now. I've it's Matthew McConaughey on audiobooks, so like doesn't really get much better than that. And I'm officially almost in the middle of week 3 of job 1, which means next week I will finish my first program ever. So that's pretty freaking rad.
Amazing.
And
Let's keep it up.
I don't know, for me, it's just like, I'm kind of in this place, like you were talking about, like changing your mindset. Like I am not a morning person. And when I started getting up in the morning, it was like, I'm going to get up because if I don't do this in the morning, it's not going to get done. Whereas like I noticed myself, like yesterday, we had no power in the morning. So my alarm never went off. So I did not get to work out yesterday morning. And I spent the whole day like, I'm going to go for a walk later or whatever, which kind of throws my evening off, but whatever, not a big deal. But this morning, like I was up at 5:05, like I get to work out this morning. My power's on. Let's go. And like just that change and like thought process makes getting up like that much easier. So I mean, that was exciting for me. I was really excited about it. So I thought I would share
That's
with
awesome,
the people.
Ash.
Thanks, Ash. Hey, Ash, you're gonna have to start not saying I'm not a morning person, because no one gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning who's not a morning person. So
I'm becoming a morning person.
yes,
It's growing on me.
I know Jordan's a morning person now. Dawn, are you still a morning person, or are you working out at night again? Night?
Both.
I tried
Both.
the night.
It depends on what I have going on and who I've committed to doing workouts with, or if I'm doing it myself. So like if I know I'm gonna meet my friend Wanda at the pool to swim at night, I don't work out in the morning. I'm like, oh, I get to sleep in. So I give myself a pass. Or if I've worked out like the night before, sometimes I don't want to get up the next morning, especially if I've taken a shower, my hair's still wet. I'm like, I don't want to wreck all that work I did there. So I'm kind of being gracious to myself, which is really hard. I struggle with that. But there will be days where I go morning, and then it's like night, morning. So I'm just allowing myself to try and be a little more flexible.
That's good.
I love it.
If I wait till night, it doesn't get done. So I appreciate the people who can be flexible. And when I get up in the morning, since I'm an hour behind y'all, Jordan's already had her energize in her stories, and she already has her workout done by the time I get up. Like I'm so impressed. So impressed.
Dawn, for giving yourself grace, think of like your best friend or someone that you care about, and whatever you would tell her, just make it like a non-negotiable to do that.
I mean, my workouts are really non-negotiable. I rarely take a rest day.
No,
and
I meant like how you talk to yourself.
Oh, how I talk to myself.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, because if I get to the end of a day and I haven't worked out, I'll go out there at midnight if I have to. Okay,
No,
maybe technically it counts as tomorrow, but
I meant cutting yourself.
Sometimes I'm hard on myself.
Goals, dog.
Yeah, I meant cutting yourself some slack.
Yeah, I am trying. I actually have something like a saying kind of like that written down and tacked to my vision board, because I struggle with it so badly. My self-talk, not good, for lots of reasons, but so I'm working really hard on that. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah. Just, I mean, if you make it a non-negotiable to do what you would hope your best friend would do, then it kind of takes the pressure off of you a little bit less. Katie, my wife, we have an ancient dog, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, move. And she was like, she's Graham. And I was like, yeah, okay. Right. Like sometimes we just have to reframe. All right. Love y'all. Thanks so much for coming tonight. Hope you got something out of it. If you try the recipes, post it on social media, tag us, let us know. If you love it, someone else is going to love it too. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.